Have you heard how difficult it is to open a French bank account? I've heard it too. Have you ever tried opening a bank account in France? I have. Have you ever given up on going to the bank without success? I've felt the same way many times. But after overcoming all the difficulties, I opened an account not with one, but with two banks. Why two, you ask? I'll tell you more. All the details and subtleties of opening an account, all the advice I'll give you are based on my personal experience alone. I don't claim to have the absolute authority on everything, but I sincerely hope that my advice and experience will help you become the owner of a French bank account. Why opening an account in France is a challenge for expats. As we all know, French banks are heavily regulated and bureaucratic. As an expat, you're considered an unusual client by banks. Any unusual behavior is highly suspicious. Banks prefer simple profiles: single salary, local tax residency, stable address. But you are new to France and either a freelancer, remote worker, or funded by savings or family. And any of these triggers the bank to consider you a high-risk client, even if everything is legal. Because they follow strict anti-money laundering rules and regulations in the EU, and accordingly in France, and therefore want to obtain complete information about the client. Banks can still say no without explanation, even if you provide everything, and this is one of the reasons for your disappointment, because there's nothing you can do to remedy the situation, and no is the bank's final decision. One bank also turned me down, citing some internal policy. I was very upset, but not for long. What did I do? I tried other banks. Which bank should I go to? Some advice from personal experience. Try to find a bank close to your home. You may need to visit a bank branch several times for various reasons. For example, I went to deliver the required documents. Don't be lazy and visit the bank. Find out during the reception whether they open accounts for foreigners. If you don't speak French, ask if they have specialists who speak a language you understand, usually English. Not all bank branches have English-speaking consultants. This is an important criterion. The account opening process itself is lengthy, and if you use an electronic translator, the time increases several times. You're asked many critical questions, and an incorrect translation can lead to misinterpretation of both the questions and the answers. As a result, this misunderstanding can lead to a refusal. I was lucky to find banks whose English-speaking specialists have experience working with foreigners and foreign financial systems. What documents does the bank need? It's time to talk about documents. After visiting several banks, I found out that different banks require different sets of documents. I would advise you to have all of the documents listed below. However, this doesn't mean you have to show them all of them at once. Provide only what the bank requests. Typically, they require passport, proof of address, proof of legal status, French phone number, email address, and tax number. Let's discuss what documents are needed for proof of address. A. If you are the proud owner of real estate, you provide a certificate of residence or utility bill with your name and address, if you have one. Final property deed. I obtained a certificate from the town hall, Certificat de résidence ou de domicile, stating that I live at this address. B. If you manage to rent an apartment, you need to provide a signed rental agreement. If you have temporary accommodation, such as an Airbnb, then provide rental confirmation, payment receipt, and a signed letter from the host confirming your stay. However, in the case of Airbnb, these documents may not be sufficient for the bank. Monthly rent receipts, a quittance de loyer, rent receipt, from the landlord or agency are accepted as proof of address. If you rent property in France, you're required to insure it, so you can provide an insurance certificate, attestation d'assurance habitation, home insurance certificate, which you can obtain from an insurance company as proof of address. An attestation de domicile, or mairie certificate, also works as proof of address. You can get this certificate if you provide your passport, your rental contract or agreement, and a declaration that you live at this address.
For proof of legal status, you can use a long-stay visa, or proof of visa application, or a residence permit. However, no bank has ever asked me for proof of legal status, perhaps because we are Canadians and have the right to reside in France for 6 months a year. But if you have this proof of legal status, then of course it won't hurt. French phone number. Having a French phone number is absolutely critical when opening an account because the bank communicates with you only through the phone. They send codes, notifications, reminders, and also call you. I provided a phone with a temporary SIM card, so-called paid mobile, and there were no issues. I'll share my experience buying a mobile phone in a separate video.
You can find this link in the description.
Email address. Tax number. In my case, it was a Canadian SIN number. A copy of your annual tax return from your country. For Canada, this is a Notice of Assessment or Tax Return Summary. I provided a tax return summary to confirm my tax residency. Be prepared that, like me, you may be asked to translate this document into French. However, after consulting with the manager, the issue was resolved since my document was in Latin. Documents not required by all banks. 1. Birth certificate. 2. Marriage certificate. Birth certificate and marriage certificate should be translated and notarized. Personal bank statements should be for 3 months from home banks. If you have transferred or are transferring money from your country to France using a money service business, such as Wise, be prepared to provide statements showing these transfers from your bank to Wise. If you have investments, have investment statements ready. I would recommend having all financial documents that can confirm the legality and origin of your income, proof of income, or assets. If you are self-employed and own your own company, have all financial and administrative documents confirming your ownership and activities. You've been scheduled for an appointment. During the account opening process, you'll be asked various questions. Answer them clearly but succinctly, following the principle that every word can be used against you. This means more questions and, accordingly, more supporting documents may follow. Show only the documents requested. Taking the initiative can be punishable. I learned this rule after my first refusal. What to do if the bank refuses your application? You can try to fight back, request a written explanation for the refusal, and exercise your right to an account. This right allows any French resident, including foreigners, to open a bank account even if the bank has refused to open an account. You must send a written refusal to the Banque de France, and they will assign you a bank where you can open an account. However, you can also apply to other banks. This may be faster than using the droit au compte. You've opened a bank account and been issued a debit card or credit card. However, it's too early to relax. 1. Be very careful when transferring large amounts of money or depositing cash. I would advise you to ask the bank how much money you can transfer at one time and how often. Play by the bank's rules. You've received a card and need to activate it. As I've discovered, cards from different banks are activated differently, and the activation method isn't always forward-facing, and sometimes it's even confusing. But there's a simple solution. After receiving the card, like me, go straight to the bank. They'll help you. After activating, make sure your card is working. How? Go to the store and reward yourself with a croissant. You should receive paperwork by mail or email with codes and instructions on how to log in to the online portal. These codes may not work for various reasons. Check your access immediately. If you encounter any problems, you know what to do. Run to the bank. How did I manage to open accounts at 2 banks? Having learned from the bitter experience of being rejected by 2 banks, I decided to make appointments at several banks at once. I got an appointment at one bank immediately, at another the next day, and at 2 others a week later. And lo and behold, both appointments were successful. I submitted the documents, and within a couple of days, both banks confirmed the account opening. A few days later, the coveted cards arrived in the mail. Naturally, I canceled the other 2 appointments. And again, this was a lesson for me. You need to make appointments at different banks simultaneously. You might ask why I need 2 accounts. I didn't understand it at first either, but after some thought, I came to the conclusion that I actually need 2 accounts because it's standard banking practice to not keep all your eggs in one basket. Moreover, daily and monthly withdrawals are limited on cards, and if you need to get cash, having 2 accounts will help you with that. But you might say you'll pay bank fees at 2 banks. Yes, you're right, I'd say. However, these expenses are worth it.
If this video resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe and like. See you in the next episode.